Normally we go straight into the news, and but this I wanted to highlight this piece before we go into the news, because this is something that this show is known for, about exposing snakes within the alt media, and I've exposed a number of them, not because I want to knock the competition out, as some people accuse, but because these people are not operating in our best interests. And of course I've mentioned Robert David Steele numbers of times, and this involves him again. So this is what happened with Kevin Annett, and Kevin's been campaigning, for those who are new to the show, about the crimes of church and state that are involved. Goes all the way up to the House of Windsor and the British Royals, and also to the popes in the Vatican. But Kevin got given details this week of someone within the British government has notified ITCCS and Kevin Annett that he's facing imminent arrest and incarceration anywhere in Canada or England because of the actions of a state-funded group known as International Tribunal of Natural Justice, not Justice, ITNJ. Now, according to the source, the British Security Services have placed Kevin Annett on priority 1 list of people to be arrested and detained for questioning and psychiatric examination after a letter demanding such action was received by the British Home Office from 2 ITNJ officers, Sasha Stone, whose real name is Adams, and it's not former actually, it's current CIA operative Robert David Steele. Now, Stone and Steele recently threatened Kevin in writing that they might report him to the authorities for a psychiatric evaluation and possible removal from the public sphere. To quote Steele on his email of March 16th, these threats were issued to Kevin Annett after he responded to Sasha Stone's unprovoked attack on him last week and questioned the legitimacy of ITNJ as a genuine inquiry into crimes against children by the church and the state. Now, to quote Stone and Steele's threats made to Kevin on the 15th and 16th of March respectively, it was as follows: if I hear from you again, or if you malign the ITNJ, whose undertakings are extraordinarily well documented, I may refer you to the relevant authorities for a mental health examination as well as an investigation for fraud and sedition. Signed, Sasha Stone and also Robert David Steele. You are henceforth blocked as being an obvious lunatic with no legal standing, and I will defer to the ITNJ as to what legal action, including referral of you as an individual, Mr. Kevin Annett, to the authorities for psychiatric evaluation and possible removal from the public sphere. Now, Mr. Stone, or real name Adams, accusation of sedition by Kevin Annett is kind of revealing, since British law defines it as any covert conduct that tends towards insurrection against the Crown. Stone thereby appears to be speaking in the name of the Crown in the role of one of its officers, making a formal charge against Kevin Annett, who for years has publicly advocated an end to the Crown rule and establishment of sovereign republics in both England and Canada. The threat by both men as ITNJ officers to have Kevin psychiatrically institutionalised is also significant, based as the ITNJ is in England. For under British law, and specifically the notorious Fixated Threat Assessment Act of 2006, any Commonwealth citizen, including Canadians like Kevin Annett, can be detained for psychiatric examination if they exhibit unusual concern for particular issues, alleged wrongdoing, or key public figures, including the British royal family. This kind of broad thought crime statute is modelled on the repressive laws from the Soviet Union and has been condemned by governments and human rights groups around the world. But these actions by Stone and Steele give credence to the mounting evidence that the ITNJ is a British government front organisation, especially since that government responded in less than 24 hours to the ITNJ demand to arrest Kevin Annett. Now, ITNJ first appeared suddenly in summer of 2018, accompanied by widespread exposure in the mainstream media and the alt media, I might add. And it has held its events at luxurious facilities in the Westminster district of downtown London, which is close to Parliament. Now, its officers include an Anglican bishop and also a current CIA officer. The ITNJ has continually refused to reveal the source or amount of its funding. Not very transparent, are they? However, recent evidence uncovered by the ITCCS and Kevin Annett indicates that ITNJ in fact operates from an undisclosed budget totalling over £8 million, which is roughly 13 million US dollars, provided from a secret covert operations fund of the British Secret Service MI5. Now, the aforementioned government source refers this to evidence and specifically a copy of an MI5 memo indicating that the ITNJ's term of fiscal operation is open-ended, depending on the most desirous course required for it, ITNJ to guide and control the efforts of sex abuse survivors to speak publicly. ITCCS was on the verge of releasing this damning evidence to the world when the ITNJ officers Stone and Steele attacked Kevin and demanded that the British government have him incarcerated. In a letter to that government today, the ITCCS Directorate declared, "In our opinion, the ITNJ is an arm of the British security services and is working actively to silence Kevin Annett under the fixated threat law. We consider such an attack against Kevin as an assault on all of us and on all of the children who will die without our work. This latest assault is nothing less than an attempt by the criminally convicted British Crown to silence one of its most vocal and intelligent critics. It is a crime of lawless violence by the British government, and we demand that it and MI5 immediately cease and desist from any actions against Kevin Annett." Now, ITCCS has also launched a legal and diplomatic offence against this threat to its co-founder and frontline leader, Kevin Annett, including with Amnesty International, at the United Nations and also within the European Union. And we urge everyone to write to Stone and Steele and to their respective politicians and demand that the British Crown attack on Kevin Annett stop. This is what happens when you're in the front line. I know it only too well, and Kevin only knows it too well. Threats on your life, threats of being jailed, bogus allegations, you name it. And it's up to us all to decide which ones we trust and which ones we support. But the people on the front line need your support. These goons are ramping up. Why? Because we're winning the mind war, that's why. The alt media, despite all its flaws, is still having a major effect on all the institutions around the world in one way or another, including the media. And they don't like it, and they're firing back. You know, the likes of what's happened with Kevin, and then you got goons setting up websites, fake websites, discrediting me, discrediting Kim. It's what they do. They thought they could get away with it by keeping it hidden, but it's not. It's no longer hidden no more. So then they outcome the let's discredit them attacks. But it's up to the people to make it not work, because the very people that the media and certain other organisations cast as bad or wrong or this or that are generally the ones that you need to follow. That's how it works. So we wish Kevin good luck with that, and I would boycott. I would hope all our members would boycott any interview given by Steele. Steele was involved with Neil Keenan, still is to some degree, and he's also, although he lists himself as ex-CIA, there's no such thing as ex-CIA. He's involved in NATO, he's involved in this ITNJ, he tried to get involved in the Classroom accounts. He's becoming the new David Wilcock. Boycott any show that has him on, is my opinion, because that man is not allowing the truth to come forward. We also highlighted the fact that he supports open source, which is NSA spying. Oops. Right, let's get into some news. The Israeli military said on Thursday that 2 rockets were fired from Gaza towards Tel Aviv, prompting sirens to sound throughout the city and putting pressure on Benjamin Netanyahu, who faces re-election in less than a month. No surprise there. Let's create a distraction incident. And certain people are calling on a strong response for him, which no doubt he will deliver against the wrong people again. But there you go. And residents reported hearing loud explosions, but there were no reports of any injuries or damage. And the military said neither rocket was intercepted by the Israelis' Iron Dome military defence system, although their warning systems had operated as normal. So maybe they didn't happen. One rocket probably fell into the sea, said the Tel Aviv mayor Ron Huldai. And he said that he had instructed to the city to open all bomb shelters, but life appeared to be returning to normal shortly after the incident. And Netanyahu called an emergency meeting with top security officials, which was no doubt prearranged. In the early hours of Friday morning, the Israeli military said it was going to be targeting terror sites in the Gaza Strip. While rocket launches from Gaza are not unusual, it was the first time in more than 4 years they have targeted the major city of Tel Aviv. Facebook said on Thursday that Chief Product Officer Chris Cox is leaving, the highest-ranking executive to depart since the social media giant became embroiled in a crisis last year, which hasn't gone away. Maybe their servers are having a bit of difficulty. And he's leaving following Facebook's decision to shift the direction of its future products to focus more on encryption. Really? I will repeat again for new listeners. If you think emails and phones are encrypted and messages are encrypted, think again. Encryption was developed by the CIA and NSA, and there's backdoors in all of them. There's nothing they can't see or hear, and likewise there's nothing we can't see or hear either. And he said this will be a big project and we'll need new leaders who are excited to see the new direction through. But Cox was critical as a critical executive of Facebook, working there for more than a decade, helping to design and run the news feed, whatever, news, and then rising in the ranks to oversee all products of Facebook. And now he's gone. Another one jumping ship. The gun industry suffered a stinging setback, according to mainstream media this week, as Connecticut's top court said families of victims of the 2012 Sandy Hook Elementary School fake massacre could move ahead with their lawsuit against Remington Arms Company with its marketing of military-style Bushmaster weapons. In a first-of-its-kind decision, the state Supreme Court said the families could sue for wrongful marketing under a state unfair trade practice law. And the court, reinstating a suit dismissed by a trial judge back in 2016, adopted the family's novel way around a federal law that protects the gun industry from liability. But just by getting the suit to trial, the families hope to gain access to gun makers' internal communications, which may aid others seeking to pursue similar suits growing out of gun violence. And this is kind of a landmark and potentially historic ruling, according to Adam Winkler of UCLA Law School, professor who specialises in constitutional law. And while all this decision does is allow a case to go forward, in broader terms it really opens up a new avenue for holding gun makers responsible. Unquote. But the point is, where does it all stop? Roundup causes cancer. Where's the ban for that? Vaccines cause autism and death. Where's the banning of that? Banks create wars. Do we ban banks? Fatty foods and junk foods create ill health. Why isn't that banned? Why can't the public sue all the junk food people, likes of McDonald's? All pharma drugs are poisons, so why haven't we banned that and had massive lawsuits against the pharmaceutical giants? They're the ones to blame. They put them out. All lawyers operating under titles of nobility, why haven't we banned them if it's against the Constitution? The list could go on, but unless we make these scumbags accountable, they will always ride roughshod over us. I'll have more on what we could do with politicians later. The original live video of the latest staged attack in last week's incident at Christchurch was viewed 4,000 times before it was removed. Facebook said this week. And on Friday, a gunman live streamed for 17 minutes the attack on 2 mosques that killed 50 people. Now, fewer than 200 people had watched it live, and the first user report of the video had come 12 minutes after it had ended. But by then, the copy had been placed on alt-right file sharing site 8chan. We'll have more about the alt-right later also. Once alerted to the video, Facebook removed the original and hashed it, essentially made a digital fingerprint, meaning that material that was visibly similar to the original could be automatically detected and removed. Algorithms. And within 24 hours, it had blocked 1.2 million copies at the point of upload and deleted another 300,000. However, copies that had been edited or recorded from a screen have been proven harder to spot, and said it was working with the New Zealand police on its investigation. And they went on to say, we continue to work around the clock to prevent this content from appearing on our site, using a combination of technology and people, according to the Facebook Vice President Chris Sonderby in an update posted on the platform. Now, the irony of it all is They're labelling this as alt-right, which is labelled fascist. And yet they are choosing what we can and cannot watch, which is fascist. You can't make this stuff up. And there's another clown. Sinn Féin president, politician, leader of the IRA, has been criticised, Mary Lou MacDonald, after she posed with a banner reading "England, get out of Ireland." Now, Ms MacDonald was photographed with the banner during New York's St Patrick's Day parade on Saturday, and the Irish Taoiseach Deputy Simon Coveney described the banner as offensive, divisive and also an embarrassment. Now, Sinn Féin said the criticism was faux outrage and political point scoring. Really. Accused the others of doing what you're doing. A common theme there. And the leaders of the SDLP Alliance and the UUP also criticised Ms MacDonald. And the photo, which was posted on Twitter, they didn't ban that, did they? By Sinn Féin's official account, along with the caption "No explanation needed." And the Ulster Unionist leader Robin Swan called for the next full explanation and said the poster was highly offensive and wrong on so many levels. And it's kind of sad that whilst others celebrate St Patrick's Day in a respectful and non-confrontational manner, Sinn Féin returns to type, he said. Now, this stupid bint needs to go back to school, pure and simple. It was the Dutch and the Catholic Church that damaged Ireland. Not England. Not the Queen. The Dutch, William of Orange, who was Dutch, not British, at the request of the Catholic Church. And yes, England played a role in it. Why? Because of the fake religions that were created, divide and conquer. Protestantism and Catholics. If you're religious, you're actually the same religion. You're both Catholics. I'll have more on that later. And England played a role in it. There's no question there. But the original damage to Ireland, which is why they have orange lodges for the Protestants, which is celebrating a Dutch king, not a British king. That was done by the families and the church. So if they really want Ireland back, they really need to get their facts correct. Because it wasn't England. Not this time. 4 more schools in Birmingham, England this week have stopped teaching about LGBT rights following complaints by parents. Lee Trust said it was suspending the No Outsiders programme until an agreement with parents had been reached. Now, early this month, the city's Parkfield Community School suspended the lessons after protests were held. And campaigner Amir Ahmed said some Muslims felt victimised, but an LGBT group leader said No Outsiders helped pupils understand it was okay to be different. In a letter seen by the BBC, Lee Truss said it was halting the lessons until after Ramadan in May. Interesting that they brought a Muslim into this discussion. Yet again, it's all about providing the divide and conquer. Muslims interfering in our schools. This is how the programme works. They repeat it often. It could have been any other person. No, it had to be Muslims that complained. And we'll have to wait until after Ramadan. And you'll get people who listen to the BS portal people pushing the same narrative. The Muslims are taking over, they're bringing in Sharia law. Look, now they're dictating the British school lessons. No, it's a programme. It's all staged. And it's time people started seeing through it. Lee Trust, which is yet to comment publicly, said it wanted to discuss the programme, nice word, with parents to find a positive way of teaching about the Equalities Act. You know, I would think kids really need to learn how to add up first, or how to spell. You know, the basics before teaching about equalities. But maybe that's just me. Now, some parents at Parkfield and the other 4 schools claim the classes are inappropriate for young children, and the school's LGBT message also contradicts Islam. See, they throw it in. Now, the No Outsiders project was created and piloted at Parkfield in 2014 by assistant head teacher Andrew Moffat, who was subsequently made an MBE for his services. I told you they're all connected. You know, you do this and then we'll give you a fake title and a nice little shiny badge, you know. And the Ofsted, who are the governing body that overlooks any complaints, have deemed the lessons as age appropriate. No, they're not. Canadian opposition parties are crying foul this week, predictably, after an inquiry into a political crisis challenging Prime Minister Justin Trudeau was shut down. A Liberal-dominated parliamentary committee has dropped the inquiry, saying its objectives have been achieved. Well, to get Trudeau off. And the PM is being accused of pressuring a former minister to help cut a deal for a firm that is facing the corruption trial. It's funny how they work. Well, it's not actually, but... and he has struggled to contain the political fallout from the controversy. On Tuesday, Liberal committee members who hold a committee majority in Canada voted to end the inquiry. They said it had heard from numerous witnesses over the past 5 weeks who have presented all sides of the matter. Conservative leader Andrew Scheer accused the Liberal Prime Minister of thumbing his nose at every single Canadian, calling the committee's move an abuse of power and affront to democracy. The new Democrat Member of Parliament, Murray Rankin, called it a transparent effort to change the channel. Yes, they're good at that. And the former Attorney General, Jody Wilson-Raybould, says Mr Trudeau and members of his inner circle spent months trying to convince her that taking engineering giant SNC Lavalin to trial would cost Canadians jobs and have a potential political ramifications. It's funny how they cite that. That kind of smacks of Trump and the Saudis deal over the journalist, does it not? She also said she was subject to veiled threats, which she believes were made good when she was shuffled out of the Attorney General and Justice portfolio. Don't follow our lead, out you go. Miss Wilson-Raybould said she believed no laws were broken, but the interactions crossed the line of her prosecutorial discretion. SNC Lavalin is facing allegations that former executives paid bribes to win contracts in Libya under Mr Gaddafi's regime, which fell in 2011. And it's a case of rules for one and rules for us. And like I said, they call it justice system. Too funny, but it's just us. It seems laws for them and laws for us. US politician Devin Nunes has accused Twitter and 3 of its users of running an orchestrated defamation campaign against him. And Republican Congressman Devin Nunes of California has said that tweets from the parody accounts at Devin Nunes' mom and at Devon Cow violate the platform's terms of service. Their tweets accuse him of federal crimes and describe him engaging in sexual activities with US President Donald Trump. He is suing for $250 million, and he said Twitter knew the defamation was and is happening, and Twitter let it happen because Twitter had and has a political agenda, and I agree. He wrote in a 40-page complaint. He says he has suffered substantial insult, humiliation, embarrassment, pain, mental suffering and damage to his reputation from the Twitter insults. Now, Mr. Nunes, who served as chair of the US House Intelligence Committee until 2019, and he became a controversial figure for his vocal support of President Trump during the investigation into alleged Russian interference in the election. He says that Twitter had shadow banned his account using algorithms to make certain posts invisible to other users. This is what's going on. And Twitter's CEO Jack Dorsey has come under fire from politicians in recent years, including Donald Trump, for censoring conservative voices. And in a hearing before US senators in 2018, Mr. Dorsey admitted that the company's algorithms inadvertently reduced the visibility of 600,000 accounts. I'll repeat that again. Mr. Dorsey, the head of Twitter, admitted that the company's algorithms inadvertently, which is bollocks, reduced the visibility of 600,000 accounts. That the company does not use political ideology to make decisions. Yeah, right. Although some accounts weren't appearing in search results on the platform, this was due to follower behaviour on the platform, he said, not political affiliation. Yeah, right. Twitter is very active now and is allowing all kinds of miscreants with criminal backgrounds that can say whatever they like with no comebacks. Yes, you, Bubba Acker, David Ray, and amongst other names. And this is what they're doing. Even when complaints are made, they're saying it doesn't violate, which is utter nonsense. And maybe that's another platform we need to boycott, Twitter. It serves no purpose, much purpose anyway. The White House missed a House Judiciary Committee deadline this week to turn over scores of records as part of a sweeping Democratic-led investigation into whether President Donald Trump abused his power in office. Funny, I don't recall documents being handed over about Obama. And according to a source familiar with the situation, and some former White House officials who received letters from the committee requesting documents, including former White House counsel Don McGahn and former Deputy Counsel Annie Donaldson, are referring the inquiries to the White House. In all, Republican aides said the committee had received responses from 8 of the 81 officials who received letters from the committee earlier this month, and a 9th had mailed documents, although they had not been received at the time of the report. Well, Democrats said more recipients had agreed to provide documents to the panel, and the House Judiciary Chairman Jerry Nadler had set a Monday deadline asking for an array of documents, including over the firing of former FBI Director James Comey, internal discussions about the decision of the then Attorney General Jeff Sessions to recuse himself from the Russia probe, and details about any talks to dismiss Special Counsel Robert Mueller, as well as records about payments Trump made as part of a hush money scheme to keep his alleged extramarital affairs from going public. Anyone else sick of hearing the name Mueller, Sessions, Comey, et al? As I am. This goes on and on and on. Arrest people is what the public wants, not documents. Final news item, and we'll see if we can get some Q&A in. A US jury on Tuesday found Bayer, Rothschild's AG's glyphosate-based weed killer to be a substantial factor in causing a man's non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. No calls to ban that. Allowing the trial to proceed into a second phase on liability and damages. Now, the jury in San Francisco's federal court, in a unanimous ruling, found Roundup, one of the world's most widely used weed killers, to be responsible for cancer of Californian resident Edwin Hardman. But it was not yet a finding of liability against Bayer. However, the case will proceed into a second trial phase before the same jury, which took place yesterday, to determine Bayer's liability and also potential damages. Now, during that phase, Hardman's lawyers can present evidence and have allegedly shown the company's efforts to influence scientists, regulators and the public about the safety of its products, which they were not allowed to in the initial phase. Now, Bayer said in a statement on Tuesday it was disappointed with the jury's initial decision, but they are confident the evidence in Phase 2 will show that Monsanto's product has been appropriate and the company should not be liable for Mr. Hardman's cancer. Really. Now, Bayer acquired Monsanto, which makes Roundup, and the case was only the second of 11,200 Roundup lawsuits to go to trial in America. Another Californian man was awarded $289 million in August after a state court jury found Roundup caused his cancer, sending Bayer shares plunging at the time, but that award was later reduced to $78 million on appeal.